Hi, this is Alex from PHP Academy, and in this tutorial we're going to be looking at splitting a name, particularly for registration purposes. Now, I'm going to take a few moments to explain the concept of this and why you might want to do it, and then I've got an example of the end result here that I'm going to show you and show you exactly how it works. Okay, so why would we want to split a name that we type into one field? Now, when you're registering users, you may ask for their first and their last name. You may ask for their middle name, but we're not going to be covering that in this tutorial. However, you may ask for the first and surname, and you may have two different fields for this. Now, in this tutorial, I've created a very basic script that deals with the process of a registration, where you may just want to ask the user for their full name, being their first and last name in one field, and then split it so you can insert that into your database or use it in whatever way you want. And we use the explode function, which is useful in a variety of other different applications. So even if you're not looking to achieve this particular result, you may want to watch the tutorial anyway, and you might pick up on some useful things that you can take away and use elsewhere. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at what the program does and the results that we get. Now, like I said, we're not looking for middle names, and we don't want just a single name to be typed into here. So for example, if I type Alex and I click submit, we have an error message returned saying please enter your first and last names. So we need to enter a first name and a last name. If I was to go ahead then and put a middle name in, we now have 3 names in total. What we want is just this first and last name, so this one is going to be out of the equation. So if we click submit, we get another error, or the same error, saying please enter your first and last names. And then again, if we don't type anything into the box, we have please enter your name, and we have the please enter your first and last names. And obviously this can be customized. You may not want to display both the errors. Okay, so now let's go ahead and type in what we actually are looking for, which is a first and surname, and we click submit, and you can see we're returned with first name on one line and then last name on another line. So what's happened is it's taken into account this space in the middle of these two names, and it's cut them in half essentially, and we've got Alex and Garrett, and we've put first and last name here, and these are accessed just through separate variables. So this variable name here is first name, and this variable here is last name. So what you can then do is, from an initial first full name, you can put them into your database or anywhere that you're using them as separate values. So now that you've seen the example, we're going to go ahead and start writing the code, and I am going to include some error checking in this, and obviously the way that you'd create it if you were to create, say, a registration page, just so you can pick up on different ideas of this. Okay, so now that we're in our text editor, we need to start to build the form first of all, and then we can create the PHP code that's associated when this form is submitted. So we've got our PHP tags here, but below we're going to be creating our form. So let's go ahead and create the form that we're going to use. Now, if you're not accustomed to HTML forms, I suggest you go and look them up. But essentially what I'm doing here is typing an action and a method. The method's going to be post. This is just the way that this data from the form is being processed back to our page. And the action is going to be register.php. This is the file that I'm currently working in. So essentially when we click a submit button in this form, it's going to return back to this page and allow us to process the code up here in between our PHP tags. So let's go ahead and create a few input fields. The first one is going to be text, and this is the full name. So let's just add a little label there, and I'm going to enclose this whole thing in a paragraph so it's nicely spaced out. So the input type is text. The name is full underscore name. This is just useful for the reference of picking it up when we reload our script. And the value, I'm going to leave blank for now, but eventually we're going to be inserting the value that they've already typed back into here, just so our form's not wiped. You'll see what I mean in a moment if you don't understand that. I'm then going to create another paragraph tag, and inside here I'm going to create a submit button. So that is going to have the type of submit, and we're going to assign a value of submit with a capital S, just so this is displayed to the user properly. Okay, so now that we've got our form set up, we can just go over here and refresh our page and review it. So we've got full name and our typing, our field here that we can type in, and then if we click submit, you can see that that's automatically reloaded back to register.php. In your case it may be different. Okay, so there's one last thing that we need, and that's a hidden field. And the reason that I'm doing this, double equals that, and the reason I'm doing this is because I need to know when the form has been submitted. So I'm going to say input type equals hidden. That won't be shown as a field on the page. The name is going to be submitted, and the value is going to be true. So what we can do is when we do our checks up here to see if the form field has been submitted, we can compare this submitted value to the value, or this submitted variable to the value true, and then we'll know that our form has actually been submitted. So you can see if we go back to our page, that's done absolutely nothing to our form itself. So inside here we need to do an initial check to check if the form's been submitted. So I'm going to say if, and then in brackets we're going to create our block here with curly brackets. Inside here's the condition, so we're going to say if is set $_post, remember we're using post data, and then in square brackets inside I'm going to say submitted. Okay, so that's going to check whether this here is equal, well, has been submitted, so that if this exists essentially. Then I'm going to say and, so I'm using an operator here, and I'm going to say and $_post submitted is equal to true. So I'm checking if this value is true. So as long as this exists here and it's equal to true, then we've clicked the submit button. There are many other ways you can do this, and some people might say this is unnecessary, but it just ensures that, you know, we've submitted the form, and it can't be, well, it can be submitted from elsewhere, but just for the sake of the tutorial. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just echo out OK, just to ensure that we know that our form's been submitted. So let's refresh the page and type anything in here, or we don't really need to at this point, but click submit and we get this OK button here, or OK message here. Okay, so now that we've done that, we need to set this full name variable inside of here, because now that we know that the form's been submitted, we can use this variable. So I'm going to say full_name is equal to $_post, just as we did up here, and then in square brackets and within single quotation marks is the variable name taken from the form. So full name, simple. So now that we have full name here in PHP, this is equal to what we type in here. So now to test this, we can echo, or in fact we can put the echo just before this here, as well as assigning it. So if I type in Alex and click submit, you can see that we just get Alex back. So now that we know that we've taken this value from our form, we know that we can use this to split our name. Now you may have noticed earlier I put this value equals nothing. Now if you notice that when we type something into here and then click submit, it disappears from our form regardless of what we do up here in PHP. So inside of our value we can actually break into PHP, and if this full name has been set, i.e. if the form's been submitted, which is this check here, we can actually take this value and put it back into our field. That way that if the user makes a mistake, they've already got what they've inserted into the field ready to modify themselves.